Just imagine for a second, a secret world. A place where the most powerful people on Earth could go, and where things like law and shame and just basic human decency, they just didn't apply. Well, the unsealing of the Epstein Files has dragged that exact nightmare kicking and screaming into the light, and it's pointing fingers at some of the biggest names you can possibly think of.
You know, there's this famous line from a movie that goes, "This is Mumbai's gutter. It's better if it stays closed." It was just a line, but now it feels real. That's what the Epstein scandal is. It's like a sewer lid has been ripped open, and what's spilling out involved presidents, princes, billionaires, even scientists that we all thought were practically gods.
So, what are we actually talking about when we say the Epstein Files? Well, our source material paints a pretty clear picture. We're talking about a massive mountain of documents, over 3.5 million pages and almost 2 million photos. And what they allegedly expose is a trafficking network that was basically a playground for the global elites. When that vault was finally opened, the stench reached every corner of the world. Okay, this is a huge, messy story. So to get our heads around it, we're going to treat it like a series of case files. First, we'll look at the tech titans who got caught up in this. Then, we'll move on to the presidents and the power players. After that, we'll dig into the shocking allegations against icons of science and royalty, see how far this network stretched across the globe, and finally, we'll ask the big question. What does justice even look like in a mess like this?
All right, let's open our first file, Tech Titans Under Fire. We're starting with two men who have literally built the world we live in today. But now, the squeaky clean images they've built for themselves are being seriously challenged by what's supposedly in these documents.
So just look at this contrast. On one side, you've got the Bill Gates we all know, or thought we knew, the guy saving the world. But then, on the other side, you've got what Epstein's own email drafts allegedly say. We're talking claims of affairs, getting a sexually transmitted disease, and then desperately begging Epstein, of all people, for some kind of secret antidote to hide it from his wife. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was all that philanthropy just a cover for something much, much darker?
And then there's Elon Musk, the workaholic genius, the guy trying to put us on Mars. He's always talking about ethics and building a better future. So to see his name pop up in these files, it doesn't quite fit, right? It's pretty jarring. In this email from 2012 that our sources describe it seems to fly right in the face of his public denials about ever visiting the island. I mean, not only does he seem to be planning a visit, but he's specifically asking about a wild party. And knowing what we know now about that island, that phrase is just chilling. So the big question is, was he just an unknowing guy in the wrong circles, or did he know what was going on and actually want to be a part of it?
Okay, let's open our next file, Presidents and Power. This is where things get really serious, because the allegations we're about to talk about go all the way to the Oval Office. We're going to look at claims against 2 U.S. presidents that suggest their ties to this network were anything but casual.
Donald Trump's, let's call it a colorful lifestyle, has never really been a secret. But what the files are alleging is a relationship with Epstein that goes way beyond just partying. They're talking about a deep, dirty partnership. And this isn't just gossip. These claims are coming from witness testimonies and emails that were actually found in the documents. And some of the allegations described in these files are just staggering. The source claims that a foreign sheik offered his virgin daughter to Trump as a gift, and that he accepted. It's even alleged that he first met his wife Melania through this whole network. And the sheer volume of connections is wild. His name supposedly shows up over 1,000 times in flight logs, and witnesses say they saw him at Epstein's house in Palm Beach while girls were being lined up for him. And if you still have any doubt about how close these two might have been, get this number, 14. That's how many separate private phone numbers for Donald Trump were supposedly found in Epstein's little black book. I mean, come on, that's not a casual acquaintance. The files suggest a level of access that just raises so many questions.
You know, it's funny. A lot of people say that whenever there's a huge scandal in the U.S., there's one name that's never too far away, Bill Clinton. And what do you know? Here we are again. His name is all over the Epstein Files, suggesting a pattern of behavior that's followed him for a very long time.
26. Just think about that for a second. 26 times. According to flight logs, that's how many times former President Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet, the one infamously nicknamed the Lolita Express. Now, his team says these were all for humanitarian trips, but 26 times on that particular plane, it really casts a dark shadow over those explanations, doesn't it?
All right, our third file. This one is called Science and Royalty. And honestly, this is where some of the most jaw-dropping names show up. We're going to look at two men who were practically worshipped in their fields, one for his brain, the other for his bloodline, and whose alleged involvement has just completely rocked people's trust.
Of all the names, I think Stephen Hawking's was the one that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. The genius who basically explained black holes to us. The files allege that he visited Epstein's island and watched underage girls. And this just leaves you with two horrible possibilities. Was this brilliant man lost in his own moral black hole? Or, and this might be even worse, was he just being used by Epstein? Flown in and funded as this respectable cover to make an island of horrors look like some kind of intellectual retreat?
The allegations against Britain's Prince Andrew, this is a massive stain on one of the oldest monarchies in the world. The files don't just say he was a guest, they call him a special and regular one. They're messages that talk about the Duke, with claims that girls were just sent to him like he was ordering takeout. And the really damning thing here is that unlike a lot of these other claims, there's a photo, a real one, of the prince with his arm around a 17-year-old accuser. The same photo he spent years saying was fake. So for our fourth file, we're going to trace the global connection. Because this wasn't just happening in the US or in Europe, not even close. The tentacles of this network, as this map shows, reached all across the world, even sparking huge controversies in places as far away as India. And the situation in India really highlights how tricky this all gets. A photo came out of the famous filmmaker Mira Nair at a party hosted by Ghislaine Maxwell, and it led to these horrible online attacks on her family. Then, completely separately, an email from Epstein mentions the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, a claim the Indian government has totally shut down, calling it rubbish. These stories really get to the heart of a key problem here. Where does professional networking in these elite circles stop, and where does complicity in something evil begin? And now for our final file. Let's pull back from the individual names and look at the machine that made all of this possible. Because this was never just about one guy. Now, this was a sophisticated operation, a system built on enablers, blackmail, and a whole lot of people in power who were paid to just look the other way.
Our sources describe it as a pretty simple three-step system. First, you had the enablers, people like Ghislaine Maxwell, who allegedly went out and found vulnerable young girls, luring them in with false promises of jobs or money. Step 2 was the blackmail. The island, the mansions, they were supposedly wired with hidden cameras and secret tunnels to record everything these powerful guests did. And finally, step 3, protection. The source alleges that police, judges, even the media were all paid off to make sure that gutter we talked about stayed closed.
And that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? We're left with this one final, really unsettling question. The truth might be coming out, but will we ever see real justice? We've seen the names. We've heard the allegations. We've looked at the system that kept it all hidden for so long. But you have to ask, will the same immense wealth and power that built this whole nightmare also be the thing that buys its silence forever? Are these files just going to end up as a horrifying record of justice denied?